Hear. Feel. Think.
Skywatchers saw a storm along their route.
I get to be first assessor.
It's not fair!
vibrant planet blessed by the light of the crystal. Amid azure seas, encompassing the westernmost of the 3 great continents, there lies a realm embraced by gods and forged by heroes. Her name, Eorzea. The annals of Eorzean history chart the rise of a succession of great civilizations, each one enjoying an age of peace, the astral eras. To date, all have proven ephemeral. The Garlean Empire began to amass a mighty army, hoping to wrest control over the realm and her resources. And in the year 1557 of the 6th Astral Era, the Empire's metal-clad warriors commenced their march south. Resistance was mounted, but to little avail, and it was not long before the city-state of Alamigo fell. In their wisdom, Eorzea's leaders established a network of guilds for the greater good of the realm. The members of these guilds were to devote themselves to no single material or martial craft, but endeavor to embrace all that they might better serve the realm's immediate need. They would be called simply adventurers.
Very well.
How long must we wait? I grow weary of the company.
The feeling, my dear, is mutual.
Aha! What do we have here? No job is too daunting as long as the coin is good.
Ah, you'd sell your own mother if the coin was good.
My father, too. Now quiet down and help me decide.
I've no particular preference.
And why does that not surprise me?
Choose as you will, Midlander.
This beast's
Our
in a
fate
frenzy the
is
likes I've
in
never
your
seen!
Look out! He's right on top of us!
Move, lass, move!
Unsatisfied with their prize, the Garleans pressed on towards the heart of Eorzea. With their colossal dreadnought, the Agrius, at the fore, the Imperial army arrived at Silvertear Falls. Only to find Midgard-Zorma, keeper of the lake, awoken from a centuries-long slumber. Nor was he alone. This would come to be known as the Battle of Silvertear Skies. A fierce aerial contest ensued twixt machine and dragon. At the close of which, the invincible Imperial fleet was put to rout.
Look who's returned from his reverie.
So nice of you to join us again.
Well, don't keep us in suspense.
This one. We'll start with this one.
Ah, he speaks.
Can we go now? Let us give the bard something to sing about.
To add to the Garleans' woes, they found that the beast tribes native to Eorzea had somehow regained the ability to summon their long-dormant gods, the Primals. Lacking the means to slay these undying beings, the Empire called a halt to its planned conquest and withdrew behind the walls of Alamico. And after 5 long years of strife, the flames of war died down, leaving only embers which smoldered quietly as the Garleans licked their wounds and the beast tribes tested the limits of their newfound power. It was thus that Eorzea slipped into the Age of Calm, during which an uneasy peace prevailed. It was not until 1572, 10 summers removed from their defeat at Mor Dona, that the Garleans finally broke their silence. Gaius van Belsar, architect of the fall of Alamico, was joined then by Nael van Darnus, their legions combining to form a force the like of which Eorzea had never seen. And just as quickly as the conquest had ended, so it began anew. To ready themselves for the coming conflict, the city-states of Limsa Lominsa, Gridania, and Ul'dah reinstated the Grand Companies, organizations with executive power to call upon the sum of the Commonwealth's military and economic might. The Grand Companies, in turn, sought the aid of adventurers, knowing that they could not withstand the aggression of two armies and the emboldened beast tribes alone. It was around this time that a well-meaning scholar from the city-state of Charlian, one Louis-Sois Levelieu, bore word to Eorzea's leaders of the advent of a new threat. Would that I had done so sooner. It was my belief that if the Primals were suffered to remain, they would seek out and devour the realm's crystals, draining the planet of its very lifeblood, and condemning her children to a fate worse than death. Moved by my words, adventurers set out to slay the Primals and thereby release the hoarded ether that it might be returned to the planet. However, 7th Legion Legatus Nael Vandanis envisioned a different solution to the primal dilemma. Meteor, a complex scheme employing arcane magics and lost technologies to summon the planet's lesser moon down to Eorzea with the aim of annihilating all the realm in one fell stroke. Dalamud, as the celestial body was commonly known, was discovered to be a machine launched into the planet's orbit by the lost Allagan Empire several millennia before. To aid them in tackling this new threat, the Grand Companies turned to the talents of Master Engineer and Garlean defector, Sid Garland. But while we scrambled to fathom the workings of Vandanis' plan, its wheels were already in motion. A massive fortress dubbed Castrum Novum now stood at the heart of Eorzea, defending a transmitter which would be used to call down Dalamud. The Grand Companies independently strove to destroy the outpost, but each was forced to concede that no single city-state possessed sufficient strength to breach its iron walls. Now recognizing the futility of standing alone against such a threat, the companies put aside their differences and consolidated their forces under the banner of the Eorzean Alliance. Thus united, the city-states began to move against the mad Legatus. At the behest of this new confederation, adventurers from across the realm infiltrated Castrum Novum, located the heavily guarded transmitter, and destroyed it. Alas, the White Raven took flight before they could subdue him. Worse, his twisted game was still afoot. Applying ill-gotten knowledge, he activated a second signal from beneath Kurthus, a signal so powerful it fractured the land, hurling vast boulders into the air where they remained suspended. In one final effort to end Nail's plan, the Alliance selected a small party of their best warriors and bid them ride Sid Garland's airship, the Enterprise, to the floating islands of Riven Road. The day of reckoning had come. As if foretold, the chosen few succeeded in slaying the White Raven. And the day went to the Alliance. But the celebration proved short-lived, as it soon became clear that Vandonis's death had not served to slow Dalamud's descent. Impact was imminent. The Seventh Umbral era was about to begin. An age of suffering. No course remained, save one. To perform a summoning, not unlike those practiced by the beast tribes, yet on a far grander scale, to seek the power of the 12. The price of such a deed would be great, and could have grave consequences for the planet, but the Alliance could not deny my reasoning. It was the only way. In preparation, I entreated the realm's adventurers to pray at holy monuments, in hopes that their prayers might stir the slumbering gods. I, meanwhile, proceeded to the Cartano Plains, where Dalamud was predicted to fall, and began the rite. The Seventh Legion, oblivious to their fallen leader's dark intentions, had also begun gathering in central Eorzea. Ordered to defend the area with their lives, they fought not knowing that victory would bring them death as assuredly as defeat. And amid the ensuing carnage, the curtain began to rise upon the Seventh Umbral era. Yet I could not allow those few heroes who still fought for me to pay the price of my failure. So I summoned what was left of my strength and sent them into an ethereal rift. There they would remain, untouched by the passing of the seasons, until it was safe to return. To a realm reborn.